my Lord. Israel, Lord. You guys want to talk about chickens coming home to roost? Dear Lord. Let's get into this. All right, so Israel, basically exactly what I just said. They just gutted their judicial system. Y'all gonna be like, what? Let me show you. Let me learn you something. All right, I'm gonna read the article, and then we're going to get into this. So this is going to be out of Al Jazeera. Baby. Let me show you. All right. So it says Israeli parliament passes divisive law weakening Supreme Court. Opposition walks out of Knesset session. Protests to continue against judicial overhaul, and watchdog group plans to appeal to the High Court. Says the Israeli parliament, or Knesset, has passed a bill that would overhaul the judiciary and limit its powers despite mass protests from the opposition. Last-minute talks to find a compromise failed to stop the far-right government led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from pushing ahead with the vote. I always wanted to do that. The third and final vote on the bill passed 64-0 after a volatile session. The opposition boycotted it in protest and stormed out of the chamber, chanting "shame." Sounds like Game of Thrones. The law, part of a wider effort to overhaul the judiciary, prevents the Supreme Court from striking down the government decisions. Its supporters say the current reasonability standards gives unelected judges excessive powers over decision-making by elected officials. But critics of the government says it removes a key element of the court's oversight powers and opens the way for corruption and improper appointments. So let's think about it like this. Let's say hypothetically that the U.S. Supreme Court was gutted, right? So the protections that we enjoy was taken away by the legislator. So basically meaning that because we have money in politics in our government, that means that the corporations have more of a say and it's less of a check on our government. Technically, here in the United States, our courts really aren't that big of a check on our government because the judges are also owned by the corporations. So essentially, it's not really that big of a difference here. But for them, they're seeing the USification of their judicial system, of their system that they have. Is it really a USification? Not really, because really the state of Israel is just the baby brother of the United States, and they do all the bullshit that the United States has. Anyway, so yeah, they're in an uproar over that because the courts are now even weaker. Let's continue. This is juicy. Okay, it says mass protests against the bill continued on Monday, which was yesterday. Excuse me. After thousands of people marched from Tel Aviv to West Jerusalem to demonstrate their opposition to the government's proposals. According to the media, at least 34 demonstrators were detained across the country on Monday evening, and several people were injured by the use of water cannons. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound water cannons being used on protesters? That sounds vaguely familiar. What does that sound like to y'all? I wonder. Let's continue. It says there were clashes between police and demonstrators in several towns. According to reports, opponents of the judicial reform blocked several roads in the country. In Tel Aviv, hundreds marched on a central highway in the evening. This sounds so eerily familiar. Says Ofer Kassif, an opposition Knesset member, told Al Jazeera that the current government is a Fascist won. Interesting. As for more than 50 years, Israel has been engaging in an ongoing military dictatorship in the occupied Palestinian territories, Kasif said from West Jerusalem. Kasif ain't lying. It's like there can be no there can be no democracy that engages in military occupation, and currently there is a penetration of the occupation system culture into Israel, he argued. And now Israel is following this law, which is just the beginning. Other laws are expected to pass around the corner, and those are going to turn Israel into a fully fledged fascist dictatorship in which most fanatic and zealous components are in power. And yet people of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, want to take pictures with Netanyahu, want to say Israel is our biggest ally. And yet Israel said, hold my beer. Let me show these motherfuckers what's up. See? Lord and Lord. Chickens coming home to roost. It says the massive, sustained protests against the judicial legislation have largely shunned mention of Israel's 56-year occupation of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and besiegement of the Gaza Strip, fearing the issue might alienate their supporters. But critics portray this rule over another people as a major stain on Israel's claim to be a liberal democracy and accuse the protesters of harboring significant blind spot in their struggle. After the vote, Justice Minister Yariv Levin, the architect of the plan, said the parliament had taken a first step in an important historic process of overhauling the judiciary. Meanwhile, an Israeli political watchdog group said it would file a Supreme Court appeal against the new law. Y'all better do it quickly now. Says the movement for equality government in Israel said it would argue that the amendment was a de facto elimination of the judicial branch and should be overturned by the court. Y'all better work quickly because it's about to happen. As more protests were expected after the vote, earlier demonstrators, many of whom feel that the foundations of their country are being eroded by the government's plan, blocked a road leading to Parliament. Big mall chains and some petrol stations closed in protest. Further ratcheting up the pressure on Netanyahu, thousands of military reservists have declared their refusal to serve under a government taking steps that they see as setting the country on a path to dictatorship. Holy shit. Even the military is saying, if you guys do this, we're not serving anymore. I wish people who were in the military in this country would have said, you know what, you guys are doing this. Look, we're not serving. I wish. Court-martial our asses. Put us in jail. We're not doing it. I wish every single person who was serving in our military resisted our government and said, you know what, you guys are going fascist. We refuse. I wish our military personnel did that. Damn it. Imagine if drones didn't go in the air, F-15s didn't fly, tanks didn't roll, and boots were no longer on the ground. If soldiers had said, you know what, we're not leaving the base, we're staying here. If pilots said, these planes will not go off the ground. If engineers and repairmen said, you know what, we're not fixing these planes. If drivers said, these Humvees will not roll. In fact, we're not even filling the tanks for these Humvees. Oh my Lord, this would... if boats did not leave the dock, if ships stayed in place, if shipbuilders said, you know what, now we're not going to do this. If sailors stayed on the ship, they said, yeah, we're not doing anything. Submarine crew, they stayed in their living quarters. We ain't going nowhere. What if? Oh my God. That's a dream. If they actually spoke out against their government, they looked their commander-in-chief in the eye and said, no. I'm live. Goodness gracious. What if they did that? So, yeah, no. It is not feasible for them to do that. You know? Goodness gracious. People. So, let me do this. Let me show you guys. I see what you said, Sean Miller. I ain't got time. But let me show you guys what happened. So, you know what? That's a good clip. Let me show you this first. I'm going to show you guys what happened first. So, this is what happened in Israel first.
מי שאינו מעוניין להצביע מוזמן לצאת. מי שלא נעזור לו.
These acts of protest came after it was clear opponents could not block a bitterly divisive plan to overhaul the Israeli judiciary from clearing a vote in parliament on Monday. The bill, which curbs the country's Supreme Court's ability to overrule decisions by the government and ministers, passed in a 64-0 vote in the 120-member legislature. When the vote was called, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu answered in the affirmative.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
It's a political victory for his hardline religious nationalist coalition, but one that has provoked a political crisis and sparked largest mass anti-government protests in the country's recent history. Tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets for weeks, blocking traffic and likening Netanyahu to a dictator. Two of the country's biggest banks said they would allow workers to demonstrate on Monday without losing pay. A forum of some 150 of Israel's largest companies went on strike, and two of the nation's largest shopping malls said stores would stay shut. Critics say the overhaul would undermine a key pillar of Israeli democracy, and the protests have prompted warnings from the army's top brass about the state's military readiness. Supporters of the move inside Netanyahu's coalition say the changes are needed to restore balance to the different branches of government. They posed for selfies and slapped one another on the back after the measure passed. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration urged the Israeli government to find a compromise, but Monday's vote comes after all such efforts seem to have failed. In the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, protesters vowed not to back down.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? This is just chickens coming home to roost. That's all it really is. Look at what you guys did when it came to the Palestinian people. You employed fascist. Policies against Palestinian people for years. and you thought that you were okay. You thought you were shielded until they turned against you. You supported the Israeli government and you said, you know, this is the only, what do they say? This is the only democracy in the Middle East. Even though there was democracies in the Middle East before Israel even existed. There were. They had democratically elected governments. Remember what happened in was it Iran under Mohammed Mossadegh, where the United States ended up taking him out through a coup? Yeah, and replaced him with the Shah. No, the United, there were democracies there. And so you're in a state that is literally committing a genocide against an indigenous people that employs settler colonial tactics to move them and to really exterminate them. And you supported this government. And yet now this government's turning on you. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes? Because the Israeli government is pretty far to the right now. Let's see the results of some of this. Oops. Let me share the screen really quick. I want you guys to take a look at this guy. Look at what they're doing. See this guy right here in the middle? 3, 2, 1. Boom. Look at the bottom. They're all hiding behind the wall from the water cannon. This is in Israel. This is in Israel, man. So you mean to tell me, does this look familiar? Does it? Because it looks familiar to me. It looks familiar as hell. That's what they're doing. But don't sit here and rise up against your government because they're now doing to you what you guys have been in favor of doing to Palestinians for years. You guys wanted this. You guys wanted stuff like this done against Palestinians. You guys favored for it. Not just Palestinians, but you guys also wanted to do this to the black Jews, to the African Jews that were in Israel. You guys wanted them to be, deported. And now the government of Israel is doing basically some of the same stuff to y'all, or is going in that direction. And now you guys are like, oh my God, this is horrible. Anytime I've ever said, if they're going to do it to us, they're doing it to you. The same thing in Israel. If they're going to do it to the Palestinians, they're going to do it to the Israelis. Watch. Look at this. Look at that. I should have said viewer discretion is advised for this part, but yeah, that's what they're doing. They're doing stuff like this. Does that remind you of something? What happened in 2020 with police cars and people? What happened? If this was a bunch of Palestinian people, some of these people in these streets would be cheering. Now, here's the thing. I don't take pride in saying this. What I'm saying is, do better. Because you cheered on when things like this were being done to Palestinian people. But now that it's happening to you, where's the sympathy? Palestinian people went through this. Where was your anger? Where was your rage of what was being done to them? Your courts are being gutted by the same government that you cheered on as they did what they did to Palestinian people. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing to the people. Chickens coming home to roost. That's what this is. You reap what you sow. That's what you did to Palestinian people. You pushed them out. You suppressed them. And now look, the same government you cheered on is doing the same thing to you. This is also a lesson to a lot of people here in the United States. Look what they do to black people. Look what they do to trans people. Look what they do to immigrants. Look what they do to Muslims. If they do it to them, they're going to do it to you. This is why class consciousness is so important. This is why taking the elements of racism, misogyny, misogynoir, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, these are why you take these things and you cast it away, because that's what they're using to put you against one another. And then once you realize when you're not looking, they do this to you. This is why we need to build class consciousness together. And to have a dictatorship of the workers instead of the corporate dictators, because they're looking to do this to you. If you are white, especially, pay attention. If you're cisgender, pay attention. If you are straight, pay attention. If you are a dude, pay attention. They're going to do it to you. If you are native to this country, not native, if you are a citizen of this country, pay attention, because they're going to do it to you. Because if they're doing it to them, if they're doing it to us, it's going to happen to you. And if you don't pay attention, it's going to be too late. They came for the socialists or the communists, and I did not speak out, for I was not a communist. They came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And they came for the trans people. They came for the gays. They came for the blacks. They came for the women. They came for the immigrants. And I did not speak out. And then they came for me, and I did not speak out. And guess what? There was nobody to speak for me. Because guess what? You said, oh, let's just otherize these people and get them out of the way. And now, guess what? Now you're stuck. Because you allowed it to happen to disenfranchised people. They came for the Palestinians, and they did not speak out because they weren't Palestinian. And now they're coming for them. And who, pray tell, is speaking for them? That's the point. This is why standing up against oppression in any form is essential. These thugs, the IDF, train our police in this country. Yep. These are the people that train our police. And so when people talk about the government would never, the government would never, my sweet summer child, let's be real here. The government has many times, you saw how your nation treated Palestinians, and you would never imagine it would happen to you. It is deeply wishful and foolish thinking to think that they would never do it to you. And apply that same logic here in the United States. They would never. They have. They would. And they're doing it again. This is why it is important to build class consciousness and toss all these ideas away of, oh my God, the gays and the trans people are coming after your kids. No, they're not. That's a narrative being put out by the corporate dictators so that there's a divide between us. Oh my, just like some black dudes are talking about, oh my God, they're feminizing men. Nobody's feminizing men. That's just some bullshit that they're trying to feed you so that you go up against people who are like me. That's all it is. Oh my God, the immigrants. Oh my God, females, women are acting like this. Oh my, it's the same thing. It's all that. It's all BS in order to keep us divided. You and I have more in common than you and I will ever have with somebody like Elon Musk. Let's come together. Let's actually make things better for us. Not these corporate dictators. Not these people who head up Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. These parasites that do nothing but extract from all of us. That's who we need to protect our kids from. That's who. If you want to save the kids, you want to save the children, all right, go up against BlackRock, State Street. Go up against companies like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Those are the ones. Those are the ones that are recruiting your kids to go fight in wars as cannon fodder. If you want to save the kids, save them. They're literally in our schools recruiting kids to be blown to bits in other countries. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Those are the groomers. Let's save our kids from them. Get them out of our schools. The groomers are the ones that are walking the halls of your schools. And at the slightest inkling of aggression, they will put him in handcuffs, put him in jail, and send him on that pipeline to prison. They wear a badge and a gun. Groomers with badges and guns trying to groom your kids into prison slavery. Those are the groomers. Let's fight against that. All because they make things like poverty illegal. And your neighborhoods, our neighborhoods, are going down the tubes because people are too poor to eat, too poor to live, and don't have health care, and don't have a good education. They create the conditions for us to commit the crimes and then punish us for when we actually do commit it. Because we dare try to eat and we dare try to live. They're going to do it to us. If they've done it to us, they're going to do it to you. Palestinians are the canaries in the coal mine. Black people are also the canaries in the coal mine. Watch this space. What else I got on my list? Let me see. Something else. So yeah. You know, they're trying to make it so that people are just have nothing. They don't want you to have anything. Let me share this, because this gentleman has the same frustration that a lot of us have. And this basically proves my point.
This man went on an emotional rant because he could lose his future accruals of pension benefits.
Nobody tell me, nobody here tell me why I get emotional. Why you talk like that? That's fine. That's fine. You don't know where I'm from. You know? I want to talk to this person. Exactly. I mean, 30-something money. Yeah, I agree with you. 30-something years. You tell me I ain't got no pension. Yeah. Nobody tell me to calm down. Everybody tell me to calm down. God damn it. This my motherfucking money y'all playing. You're right. That shit.
Trucking firm Yellow Corp failed to make a $50 million payment for health and welfare benefits for its employees. As a result, employees are not accruing any more pension credits, unless the company and IBT come to an agreement by this Sunday. This is a concerning situation for 22,000 workers. They are planning to strike next week. This man went on an emotional rant because he could lose his future accruals of pension benefit.
Because ultimately they want you to have nothing. Imagine working 30 years and thinking that you're accruing pension benefits only for it to go up in smoke. 30 years. 30 years you gave your life to one company. I'm surprised. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm on YouTube. I'm surprised he handled it as well as he did. I might have handled it worse. This is the state of the country. So yeah, when it comes to the state of our country, when it comes to the state of Israel, right? There are two peas in a pod. Corporations own Israel, only because it's in the Middle East, so that they can be surrounded by other countries and they can subjugate these other countries surrounding them to rule. They want to subjugate Syria. They want to subjugate Iran. They want to subjugate Iraq. They want to subjugate Afghanistan. That's what they basically want to do. They want to own that part because they also have resources in that part. That's basically what it is. That's the United States arm in the Middle East. The United States also wants to do it to us, continuously place us under subjugation so they can get us back into slavery and change. But they just don't want to put black people back into chattel slavery. They also want to put white people in chattel slavery too. Hi, guess what? Time for you to wake up. That's what they want to do. And that's why class consciousness is important for us to wake up and to come together to get rid of these corporate dictators and have an actual government ran by workers. That's the point. This is why later in the month of August, I'll be meeting with people who signed up for the RBN chapter in Orlando. We will be discussing the things that we want to do with our communities. Once we do that and come to a consensus of what we want to do, we're going to create a direct action that will be helping out the people in our communities. So then we can do things like feeding, giving water, toiletries, teaching the people in the communities. Once we do that, we'll start that ball rolling. We'll also be doing recruiting. Now, if you still would like to join, then here's what I'll do. Let me put the link to the application in the chat. And if you guys would like to still, you can still do that. Okay. Because I know that there's a lot of people who still would like to join, who may have not gotten a chance. Let me see if I can get the link. Got my responses. Let me see. Here we go. All right, shorten URL. Copy. Okay. So, and also, look, use what I said as an opportunity to join an organization. You can join Food Not Bombs. You can join other different organizations. Look for ones that are mutual aid organizations. And for those which you join, those mutual aid organizations, work out in your community, and, it could be free clinics. It could be feeding people. It could be giving them toiletries. It could be teaching people classes on different things, or you could just be helping out your neighbors, on your own if you wish. But that's the point. Help out your neighbors as much as you possibly can, because this is what is needed. You guys don't have to do anything huge. Like I always say, leave the world better than you found it. You don't have to leave the world better than you found it in a large way. You can even do it in just multiple small ways. Many hands make the load light. That's the point. Even if it's just communicating with people the truths about what our country does, that's even helping people, right? Talking to your families, right? That's the point. And I want you guys to think about it in that ways.